This episode of The Republic is brought to you by World of Tanks. Go to gboffer.com/tanks.
Game Breaker TV.
You are watching the first and longest running new media broadcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Welcome to Game Breakers The Republic. You will never need to listen to any other Old Republic podcast ever again. Oh, who were they kidding? They're just a bunch of nerds geeking out about the Old Republic on the internet. But here's your host,
Cachisa Crispa Greedo.
It's Larry Everett.
Hey everybody, this is Larry Everett, and you are watching The Republic number 189. My notes still say 187. I need to change that. 189, and today we are talking about some community interviews that happened this week, particularly PvP related interviews. But before I get into that, I want to introduce my host. We have from Corellian Run Radio and Pretty Little Sith, we have Heather. How is it going? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, what a great start, guys. I'm doing great. I got a new camera. I seem to have failed with this lamp here, but that's okay. Next week I'll get it right.
Yeah, we'll work on it. But the camera looks good.
Yeah.
The camera looks good. It looks a lot clearer. I'm impressed. And
Yeah.
go all the way from the Utini cast and the Bastion server, we have Redna. How is it going? Are you muted?
Hey.
Okay, you're not muted. Good. So
Lots and lots of practice with the new button. No, great. Freaking yeah. I've streamed almost every single day this week, and I did the show for Routinecast last night, so I didn't do a personal stream, but otherwise I had the stream going all week long just because there was so much to do in game. It was a hell of a lot of fun. A good week.
yeah, it is, and it has been. I have to say, it has been an awesome week for streams in general. I know Road has been streaming for the last few hours, and he streamed before that, and you're streaming. I know Road's doing a stream for Extra Life, right? Yeah. So, and he's streaming.
Yeah, I was thinking about setting up one of those myself. For that's what is it, October 25th? That you need to do it.
25th, 24th, 25th, something like that. Yeah. But it's it's been.
Which anybody and everybody, if you don't know what the whole Extra Life thing is about, you should totally check it out. Any of the streamers that you like to watch, if they are doing a 24-hour stream on Saturday, it's because of Extra Life, and they'll have a means of you being able to donate money, and that money will go straight to the children's hospital of your streamer's choosing. It's a really, really good charity. They do it once a year.
Yeah, usually it's like a local hospital. I know a couple of actually radio DJs around my area are doing that, so it's a really great thing. And so you guys can, after this show's over, you can hop over to Rhodes' channel. I'll get you the link, and you guys can watch that and support his Extra Life program. So anyway, top story today. I don't have video for this because even though it was a video thing, Eric Musco was interviewed by Snave. Now, if you guys don't know who Snave is, if you're just tuning in, maybe don't know the community at large, Snave is or was I don't know how you would describe it. Let's say is. He says he's going to keep the title. He is the operative representative, even though the representative program is kind of non-existent anymore.
Class rep. Yeah.
Yeah, class rep. So he interviewed Eric Musco and talked about some of the things that happened, that's happening with his job in general, and then he kind of about halfway through the interview, it's about an hour-long interview, he went and then kind of switched gears a little bit and changed it to PvP, which is Snave's. If anybody's watched Snave's streams, that's pretty much what he does all the time. I can't think he does. I don't think that he does anything else other than PvP. And I think if I was going to I guess classify the crux of the interview, and the biggest thing had to be the communication breakdown that was happening between the community team and the community at large. Specifically, I mean, one of the things that was brought up, and I'm going to throw this to you guys to get your thoughts on it, is the idea that one of the things that Eric Musko mentioned at the very beginning was that, and this is going to kind of start the show on a downer, and I'm sorry about this, but it is that Eric wanted more transparency with what the game is doing, what the developers are doing, versus, hiding stuff from the community and kind of. So, let me ask this. This is the question I'll ask to you first. Is, do you think the community team in general has kept the transparency? And if they have, I mean, how have they done it, and or have they improved the transparency at very least? And if not, what could they do to make things more transparent? Let me go ahead and throw this to Heather first, because I'm sure, Red, you'll have a lot to say about it as well. But let me throw that to Heather first. What do you think as far as transparency goes? Have they been good? Has he kept up with that promise?
Recently? Not really. I don't think so, just because we waited so long for those Season 2 ranked rewards. But today, I know we're going to get to this a little bit later, they did give us just a little taste or a little preview of the Season 3 ranked rewards. So I think maybe they're trying. He did that interview yesterday, so maybe they had a talk today at the studio, and they're like, hey, they want us to be more transparent about these things, and PvP is a really important topic, so let's just give them something.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that kind of sparked this interview, which is really kind of weird, is that Snave in which broadcast it was the one where they were first talking about the discipline system. Snave was actually, believe it or not, banned a few times on a couple of different accounts during that stream. And he was, because he was saying certain things about, lack of transparency and things along that line. What do you think, Red? What do you think can change? How could they have made this better? What has happened? What has happened to make this kind of lack of transparency and people kind of come up in an uproar a little bit? And what could change? How can the community change that? Community team, rather.
I had been of the opinion personally that it was not the community members' fault. That they are given permission to give us information at certain times, and then they give it to us. Occasionally, and more frequently, often, they have not been able to do that. The way that they've presented that information has not gone over well. They haven't done as well recently. That's a more recent development, I think. I thought that it was a scheduling problem and a permissions problem behind the scenes, and it wasn't the community members' fault. In the interviews, Musko said flat out, blame him. So I'll blame him. They've lied to us continuously for the past year. They have, and previous to that, like, their content release cycles have consistently, continuously been made further and further apart. And they've added more types of content, which means that, you've been a year now without a new actual operation. You had a new operation mode, but not a new operation.
Yeah.
And I think that the lack of information on top that they give us about even what is coming, tied into the fact that they just simply have not been able to provide us with what they tell us they're going to on time, consistently. And that's the thing, I think a lot of people were just like, well, why the heck did the community get so upset that they missed an announcement? Who cares? It's an announcement. It's not content.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point, is that they said, it was ironic too, they said, Musco in the interview kept reiterating that they had a goal of getting it out by the end of September. It was a goal to try and get it out by the end of September. Except the quote from what they gave us was, "It will be out by the end of September."
Yeah.
And yes, it's just an announcement. It's not content. The problem lies in the fact that after consistently not being able to do what you tell us you're going to, now you can't even give us information on time. So that's where, it's like you can't even, you haven't been getting the content. Now you can't even say, oh yeah, by the way, it's called Shadow of Revan. I mean, that's all they had to do before the end of the month. Just give us the title, with no pictures, no further information. Just say, yeah, this is what it's called, and then finish the video.
So you think, okay? Now I'm good. I disagree with you. Now I'll get into why I disagree with some of that. But you think that you think that. It could have easily been avoided. The situation in general, the recent situation, could have been avoided with them just giving us the title. Is that what you're? That's all that needs to
concerning the announcement. Yeah, they said they'd have further information before the end of the month. Just give us information. It doesn't matter how much it is or how little it is, and then 1 week later, give us the big announcement. Just don't.
Well, that problem could have also been solved by wording. Just simple wording.
Well, exactly.
Of not even announcements, but announcements of announcements.
Okay.
They could have worded it so, just more carefully.
And Snave did in the interview hit on a good point, which is that a huge problem with their transparency is really at the end of the day, it's not the dates that matter. It's the information. And if you don't know when it's coming, that's fine. Just tell us you're working on it. If you aren't sure what the final incarnation of what you're going to give us is going to be, then don't tell us. Just give us the information that you have. And if that information at that point in time is, we recognize that there's a huge outcry from the community that something needs to be done about this. The devs are working on a solution. We haven't come to what that final solution will be, but we are working on it.
Hey, so,
that's more transparency. That would be a lot better. Don't tell me when you are going to give it to me if you don't know, and don't even tell me what it is if you don't think it's going to be technically feasible or there turn out to be other problems. That's fine. Give us the information you've got, because they go months at a time without giving us anything of substance. And then we found out from this interview that Musco has lots of this information, but he has been holding back on giving us information and doesn't give it to us because he's paranoid that it might be changed. Whereas rather than saying, hey, we're going to tell you something at the end of the month, just say, here's the information I have, this is what we're trying, I'll let you know if anything changes about that in the future. I think there hasn't been transparency.
Let me throw this to Heather, because she's the one that mentioned it. What could have been said differently that would have changed the reception of not just Snave, but a lot of other people? What could have been said by Musco or whoever
about what, the announcement?
Yeah, the announcement.
Well, just like Redna was saying, exactly, just rewording it to, hey, we are trying to get this announcement out to you before the end of the month. Trying, just making it a goal, not we are going to give you the information.
Do you think
pretty much he said it?
Yeah. Do you think that this was a shall we say, like, do you think it was a failure in okay, do you think that they were going to have it and that everything was set, or do you think that this was just a like, for instance, what I'm trying to get at, do you think it was changed at the last minute, or do you think that this was okay, this was a goal, we just didn't reach that goal? What were you thinking? As far as
I think it was definitely a goal. I think it was definitely a goal that that most of the team, they're trying to reach this, and I think they had some kind of loose end or some moving parts. That's their exact, I think, words that they were using. That there's some moving parts that just didn't fit in together at the last minute. But even so, even if it was a last minute change, I think they should have made that hard promise because that hard promise was made by the end of the month. I mean, maybe Musco didn't think, people were going to take it so seriously, but people went wild So I think, just as a backup, just to cover your own self or, whoever wrote that, that they should not have given a hard date for that.
All right.
Yeah, don't put the dates in.
One of the things that regarding transparency that Snave hit on that I think was really an interesting way of putting things, and I'm wondering, and I know that having worked with Star Wars: The Old Republic for since before beta, like almost right after it was announced, and also working with other MMO companies and things along that line, I realized that there is a level of expectation of the customer, the consumer, the people that are going to play the game or want to play the game, and that if you lots of times when you tell them something, even if it is, we're going to try to hit this. Now, I granted the wording was not this way with what was said regarding the announcement and stuff, but if they say if you say we're going to try to reach this goal, that is almost always interpreted as we will reach this goal at this time, and if that is not reached, then there is an uprising in the community that way. Do you think, and so basically this rolls back to the idea, do you think that transparency
but there's a logical fallacy there. Whether or not people assume that one way or the other, one is a statement and the other is a goal. One makes you a liar, and the other makes you optimistic. If you don't meet your goal, you say, we're going to try and get it out by the end of the month. And it doesn't get out by the end of the month, you say, we didn't get it out by the end of the month. We tried. And if the community gets all pissed off, the community can't say you lied to us.
Okay.
That's why I was saying, it is a minor difference in words, but words mean a lot. And then you've got people like me. I read things literally. If they said try, I would totally be okay with them not meeting that goal. When they say it will be there by the end of the month, literally every day, coming up to the final day of the month, I was checking the website more and more and more and more and following Twitter closer and closer, waiting because I expected them to do what they said they would do. And that's why it's just the wording, that nuance is why, yes, people would have been unhappy if they only gave us the title of the expansion, but at least they would have been honest and given us information by the date they said they would. It's being honest with your customers. And you've got to be really careful with that, because if you don't, even if people get upset about a missed goal, at least you've been honest. When you start being consistent, when you can be literally called a liar, then your customers stop trusting you. And then anything else you promise or set goals for in the future, no one's going to believe them because you've been lied to already.
Okay, so regarding this situation, if for the future, if the community team says, okay, so can we get succinct as far as the information is concerned? How often would you like to hear new information? And what would be satisfying as far as the phrasing is concerned regarding that new information? Let me get this one to Heather. What are your thoughts on that? How often would you like to hear new information from the community team?
You know what? That's it really depends on what the information is. They should be doing weekly streams. I think they should give us information all the time, every week. They should say, hey, we're trying out this. I mean, maybe not give away some big giant thing, but they could say, hey, you know what, we're working on, this is the main thing we're working on today. We're working on blah, 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 new flashpoint, blah, 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 a Warzone. I mean, they don't have to say when it's coming out or anything like that, but they can say what they're working on as long as it's not something totally secret like Strongholds or something, I think. Right. Everyone would have gotten really excited about that. But they can at least just say, hey, we're doing this, even if it's something really simple. Just little communications, I think, would be nice.
Little bitty nuggets of information. Like, hey, you know what? I was trying to, I was trying this new build the other day in the discipline system or something like that, or whatever, or and just I'm with you on that one. I could feel that, because I would like it would be really, really nice to see something that even if it's just I was trying something on the PT.
Like when they
go ahead.
Like when they posted on the forums, hey, give us your PvP Warzone ideas. And, everyone started submitting ideas to them. They could have said in the stream, hey, we had a meeting about all your ideas today. We thought some of these were pretty good, and, we're going to try and work on it. Even if they said simply that without saying which one they liked or what exactly they were working on. Just some feedback or some response from them about something that they're working on. I think people would be really excited just to hear, oh my God, they're actually talking about our ideas. They're having meetings about it. They're thinking about PvP or, just whatever.
That's actually an excellent point, because when they announced the expansion, they told us all about the PvE content that was coming, right? And then so the PvP community went into the forums and said, hey, I noticed that there's a severe lack of PvP being mentioned in this expansion. That would have been an excellent opportunity right there for Eric Musco to go walking into the chat room and say, hey, you're right. With the release of this expansion, there will not be any new PvP content in the form of maps or new modes. However, if you recall this thread, we have been closely monitoring it, and there are things that we're working on concerning PvP. They will be released after the expansion. Don't give me a date. Don't even say 3.1. Just say it'll be after the expansion. We know from other community cantinas weeks ago that they have things in the works for some PvP material that are beyond just the change in the discipline system. That would have been an excellent opportunity. And I don't even think they have to say we're working on PvP or a flashpoint or this or that. An excellent thing is, in order for your community to feel engaged, you go into the forums and just see what people are talking about, right? And if there's somebody really griping or whatever, and you know that the devs are looking at something, you don't have to tell them what it is, but just be consistently in those threads saying, hey, listen, if it's something that is going to take you weeks and it's a thread that's been persistent for months, maybe you should set a reminder in your calendar to go off every 3 or 4 days to just go back into that thread and say, hey, don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. Still working on it, but it's not going to be soon, and just those little bits and pieces. It's not actually knowing what the content is. I think a huge part of the frustration from the community has been the feeling that the community team hasn't actually been giving us anything of substance, nor have they even really been telling us recently that they're even talking with the devs much. There's been very little communication on that aspect.
And I think this also leads to the attraction to people like SWTOR Minor, like, oh my God, I'm not getting information from the community team, and I really want to know what's going on. He knows what's going on. He can see. Why don't I check out what he's doing? And that, I think that could be, I guess for the devs and for the community team, that might be kind of complicated, especially if he releases something that they should have talked about.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that actually comes back almost full circle to what we had talked about in previous episodes about SWTOR Minor and his appeal and what is so appealing about what he does, and then the whole I guess controversy or whatever you want to call it with SWTOR Minor, which was brought up briefly by Snave, and the idea that if they're not, and I've said this in a few times, and I said this in Hyperspace Weekend a couple weeks ago. I said, if the development team is not going to bring the information, or excuse me, the community team is not going to bring the information to the website, the podcast, and whatnot, they need to be able to fill that space with information. So they're going to turn to SWTOR Minor and things along that lane. So the best thing that the community team can continue to do, and if I'm on a little bit of a soapbox here regarding this, is they just need to talk to the community, and that is one of the things that it just in general, and they.
It doesn't have to be about anything that they're even doing. Just be talking to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do. This is kind of one of the things that it irks me a little bit about this specific community team, and I know each community team is going to have a slightly different flavor than another one, but there will be some times where it's days without any kind of post that shows up in the dev tracker. Sometimes, and there are other MMO communities that I've gone to, especially Star Wars communities, which are just absolutely insane because they're always on the forums. Star Wars communities, above almost any other have something to talk about all the time.
I wonder if it would help because if they are reading the forums, and here I'm taking them at their word again, but maybe I shouldn't. If they read the forums as much as every single one of them says that they do, I wonder if it would help the community a lot even if they had nothing to say other than they got caught up on a certain thread and they post, "Thanks, guys," and then they move on. And you can actually watch them as they're moving through the forums, and just a little thank you here and there. And at least you know that they're getting through the forums. You can even start to get a feel for what they might even find is more important, or where topics of discussion are really happening, because if you follow the dev tracker, you see where they say thanks. Well, you know they're jumping into that thread because it's probably got 400 posts as opposed to the one thread that only has 2 posts. You know, and then as a community, that helps the community follow where other discussions are going on. That
exactly.
Maybe aren't even in their own interest.
That's one of the things that as a I know when I was running forums, and this is also I'm not necessarily expecting all of this because I understand that the community team has a lot of things to do on a regular basis. But one of the things that that I believe that a community manager in general, especially somebody that is a forum community manager, should be doing is directing the conversation. And that can't happen unless they're on it. And like you said, with the dev if people just go into a dev tracker and see that that a community team member has posted, thanks, or that's a great idea, or something really simple, or kind of, even if it's a joke or something silly, that will direct the conversation to that
how
thread.
Great was it when Amber was putting jokes everywhere and in the show note or in the patch notes and stuff? That was really good. Like, people started tracking through forums just to see her little quips. There were people that they just had a list of her little jokes because they, it was almost like an Easter egg hunt where you could just find every joke that she made.
Yeah. All right, well,
and that's true, that you get enthusiasm, but I would like to say one thing along these lines when it comes to transparency. The frickin' PvP release that came out today is a perfect example of what I'd like to see from them. Yeah. They gave us the speeder and said, there's a whole bunch more, we don't have pictures for you. Fine.
That was great. I really liked how they did that. Yeah, I mean, even if their bosses were only like, well, you know what, we only have this. We can only tell them about this. But, you can say that there's this coming out and be really unspecific, but people will be excited about it anyway. Like, new armor set, a whole set, just a helmet? What? Is that, seriously, a whole set? We don't know.
And let me speculate on that, yeah. Yeah. Well, and hopefully, what I'd love to see, when it comes to the PvP seasons, this would be a perfect example because the seasons are only going to be every 3 months, right? Well, they should probably I was going to say once a month, but that probably isn't often enough, right? If there's more than 3 tiers, so slightly more every 3 weeks, if they put out just here's reward, we'll get more to you, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, here's another reward, and just throughout the season be telling you what the rewards are, because they obviously don't want to tell us what all of them are by the end of the month, until the end of the season. But if they just gave us those bits and pieces, that would actually get people going back into the war zones over and over and over again because, it's like the first time they get in and they get raffle stomped, but hey, at least I got to 1,400, Yeah. So, and then they see the next reward and they're like, ooh, well, maybe if I just put a little more time into it, it would keep that excitement throughout the season higher. Because they're going to keep going back in. And maybe you didn't like the first reward, but you liked the second one, so you didn't get incentivized to go in the first time, but now you want to go in for the second one.
Yeah, and we're along that same lines, and we'll get to the exactly what was talked about here a little later. But along that same lines, I mean, one of the things that I think is not done often enough in community teams in general is they don't allow the community team to do their job as much, like whoever, Eric's bosses are. Like, for instance, I mean, I remember some community teams, basically, just like you said, they're given this, they're saying, okay, you can talk about this, because this is ready. Do what you want with it. Talk about that. That doesn't feel that that's happening. Do you believe that that's happening? Do you believe that the community team, do you believe that there's some tie, like the hands are tied just a little bit with the community team, or do you believe that this is just how the community team wants to function? I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Red?
I have to go straight to the interview with Musco. Yes, that is exactly what I thought was going on. I thought that the community teams' hands were tied, and they were giving us what they could when they were given permission. But the interview with Snave, Musco said he's entirely responsible. It is his fault. So I will now put that at his feet. Right. I mean, I'm not a vitriolic, angry, emo individual, so that's fine. I'll blame him. I'm not gonna hold it against him either. I really do think that. I mean, you got to remember. I know what a lot of people would like is what you have in some other MMOs, which is just like a full-on open dialogue where they just discuss with you even their whole design philosophy every step of the way. The thing is that first of all, this is an EA game, which take it as you will. The other thing is you got to remember this is a Star Wars game. You can never have that in any Star Wars game that's constantly evolving because you have to deal with Disney and LucasArts as well.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Any before we move on to the next one, you have any final thoughts on this, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, I think what else is Musco supposed to say? He is the communication face. He is the face of all the devs, even though they do write blog posts on the on the website and things like that. He is the face. He and the other community team members, they're the ones that are communicating with us. So it's not like he can go on there and say, hey, you know what? This was delayed because so-and-so from so-and-so department didn't do this. He can't say that. He has to say, okay, well, this is what happened. I'm sorry. You can blame me. He's not going to say, well, you can blame that person over there. You can't say that.
I completely agree. I don't, and so as my final thoughts, I guess, on this particular subject is that I don't. Although Musco said, "Blame me," okay, fine, because you said to blame you, I'll blame you. But I don't think I don't think that it was totally his fault. I think that there are a lot of hands being tied. There's a lot of ceilings and walls that he's having to punch up against and things along that line. So I think that but most of all, I think the biggest thing, although I believe it was a mistake to talk to Snave in the first place, because I think it gave a little bit of the impression that if you make a stink on a live stream that you'll get an interview.
No. This is BioWare's MO, 100%. Yeah. If you want anything done in this game, they will literally do anything in this game if you're a squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
And there are things that have happened in this game that have been bad for the game because people are complaining in the forums.
Yeah.
People that love the way that things aren't in the forums telling BioWare, great job. In fact, I need to freaking get into the forums and say, hey, by the way, conquests rock. This nonsense about exploits is BS. It's how you've designed it, and I love the design. And yeah, small guilds can't do it. But thank goodness at the most recent Community Cantina, they were asked this, and they were told, the response was, yeah, it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
Duh. You're taking over an entire freaking planet. It's supposed to be hard. No, two of you can't do it.
I think, but I do have to commend Musco for going onto the interview in first place. He knew, without a doubt, he knew what he was getting into. He knew that it was going to generally be disgusting, if you will, because it was just he was running into the lion's den and saying, "Here I am, chew me up." Is pretty much, and I do have to hand it to him for that. And I think I don't like the way that it came about, because I think that it should have come about with other methods, but I commend Musco for doing it. So thanks, Musco, for being an amazing community manager. On to the next thing. We mentioned it just briefly. We talked about the community cantina in New York City for New York Comic-Con. Last week we talked about all the different images and whatnot that came from that cantina, and now this few days, I guess the day after, or a couple days after, we got the Q&A that happened. We got Dolphy actually went through, or somebody from Dolphy went through and outlined everything. I'm just going to we'd be here forever if we went through all the questions and talked about every single one. So I picked out some of the highlights here, and the first one that I want to talk about is a little bit of a spoiler, because we might have to speculate a little bit here, and I bring this out because it has to do with future content. They were asked which flashpoints were going to be hard mode in 3.0. Which ones are going to come out with Shadow of Revan, and they did say that there would be 4 flashpoints that would come out, and they said talking about Musco, he can neither confirm nor deny which flashpoints they will be, and wink wink, nudge nudge. And then later on he's asked, will Colloquoid War Games become a hard mode? And the answer to that was he really wishes it was, but it won't anytime soon. If ever, too much would have to be redesigned for a hard mode version. So that means that
it's not Colloquoid War Games.
That means it's
Process of elimination.
Exactly. That means it's not Colloquoid War Games, and since it's not Colloquoid War Games, it's likely not Red Reaper either. So we are only left with 4 flashpoints that haven't.
Technically 5.
5? Which was the 5th?
KDY. But I don't have the source. I don't have the source, but somewhere I think it was after the Q&A, talking directly to devs, they did confirm it's the tacticals that we have for the Forge Alliance story arc.
So I do know of that source. That source is not. I wouldn't consider it as reliable as this one, because there was somebody that was talking to the dev one-on-one outside of an official. He was talking to a drunk dev at the community cantina. It's not always reliable. So, but this one is a little bit more reliable, and pretty much that pretty much boils it down to being the tacticals that we currently have for Forged Alliance being the hard modes that we're going to get. Your thoughts, Heather? Right way or wrong way? What do you think?
I hate Colloquoid War Games, so I'm glad it's not that one. And I'll be really excited to try hard mode versions of the tacticals. Some of those fights seem like they'll be really exciting to do.
Which ones particularly?
Well, I mean, right now, I just kind of go in there and it's tank and spank. It's really easy for me, so I can't really think which ones I think would be technically harder. I can think right now that one with the water that electrocutes you and Depths of Manan.
Yeah.
That one seems like it might get kind of complicated. Also, maybe some of the ones on Legacy of the Rakata. I think one of the bosses has like a debuff on him or something. Not a debuff, but like something where you shouldn't be hitting him because he has a shield. So you should be hitting the other guy. I mean, right now you can just kind of go in there and just, kill them both.
Right.
I think in hard mode it'll be actually hard, and it's going to be 5 levels ahead of where we are right now. So remember when the 55 hard modes came out?
Yes.
Those were actually kind of hard.
They were hard and fun. Yeah.
Because we didn't have the gear. So I'm really excited to just try those out, even though right now they're so easy. Their tacticals are just. Because when I did when the Zerka flashpoints came out, they came out with story mode and hard mode at the same time. I didn't even touch story mode. I just went straight to hard mode and figured it out, and that was fun. And when people ask me, "Oh, let's do Zerka story mode," why? This is so boring.
All right. So, Red, what are your thoughts? is that the right thing to do?
I agree with her. I mean, I've always felt, even before we knew there were only going to be 4 coming, it seemed absolutely natural to me that the reason we never saw hard modes for these tacticals was because they were saving them for the expansion. So I'm okay with that, and I also agree. I think Manon and Rakata Prime, at least from the boss fights that exist there, which they also have more genuine bosses in them, they look like, as I've played through those tacticals, I've played them with an eye for what would they do with this with a hard mode. And Manon and Rakata Prime in particular do have some really interesting mechanics in them. They're completely ignorable because they're tactical, but if they execute on those well, I think they could be really fun, interesting hard modes, and I'm okay with that. I really hope that whatever the 2 new tacticals are that are coming out on top of it, that they have plans to put those out as hard modes fairly soon as well. But no, I'm excited. I know a lot of people feel like they've been doing the story arc, tacticals so much, but that's fine. That's because you chose to do them. They're actually pretty recent. I think all 4 of them have come out in the past 2.5 months. It's not that long to wait.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely. I think this is the right move. Although I gotta admit, I would have liked to have seen what they could have done with Red Reaper and Colicoid War Games to make it a hard mode. I know that, but those are old. I think that these are a little bit more memorable. One thing though, I do have to say about that in general is that it's I'm afraid I know you touched on it, Red, but it might be a little bit stale. I do think it might be a little bit stale because those are the ones that pop up, at least as far as I'm concerned, that pop up all the time if I'm doing my Flashpoint weekly or and that kind of thing. So that or daily rather. Sorry, that's the one that pops up all the time for me. Are those 4? In fact, actually, it's more
because you're focusing on the tacticals. Turn off the tacticals and do hard.
Well, no. I do. I mean, when I'm doing everything for like conquest and stuff, and you get points for tacticals as well as points for hard mode. So yeah, so
yeah. Well, they show up because it's those 4 or KDY or CZ198.
Yeah. So that's the only thing, and so I think it might be a little bit repetitive. However, I gotta say, I think that especially the one in Manon, the doctor in Manon that does the pool of water, I can see that one being extremely difficult in a hard mode, and I'm really looking forward to it. And also the droid, the 3 droids, or excuse me, the 2 droids in the Cellcath that do the.
That you can solo right now, but
yeah, you can solo right now
with all those knock-ups and stuff. If they actually did damage, that could be a really crazy fight.
Yeah.
I hope that one with the water is as hard as that one Lost Island fight with that fire thing that's on the ground, and like if you're melee, people didn't even want to bring you. I hope it's as hard as that.
I agree. No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, the Lost Island one was that was extremely difficult. I didn't like that it closed off melee, but I did like the level of difficulty in that flashpoint. That was a pretty difficult flashpoint when it came out. It could be done as melee, but lots of times people didn't want to bring melee because it made it that much more difficult.
The irony is that actually when me and my buddies were stubborn SOBs, right?
Yeah.
And so when it came out and we couldn't beat it the first day, like we got in there, we fiddled with a few of ourselves and our characters to find out a good composition. It wasn't the melee that we didn't want. It was that we actually wanted the melee, but not Diana's little assassin. We wanted Sentinels, Guardians, or Power Tech's Vanguards, because they've got that shorter interrupt, and you needed the shorter interrupt so that if the tank missed it, the other melee had it, and he could get it more often, and then the tank only had to worry about that one burn debuff. So the melee could actually be interrupting everything except for that one burn debuff, and then the tank could hit the burn debuff every time. But we were a lot better about mobile movement and everything, and you didn't have to take the range and shove them around the different room and whatnot until they figured out, the gimmick of just put the healer in the middle, put the tank out, and the two ranged on the sides. But it was I would love to see complexity like that. I really would. I do think there's potential in Rakata Prime though, because if you think about the Ranker boss, you've got the Ranker and the handler. Right now, you just ignore the handler who has no aggro table until
Well, it could be. It could be very. It
the
could
massive
be a very,
swarm if they were actually a threat as a massive
exactly.
swarm.
That's the one that I'm really concerned about as far as Rakata Prime is concerned. Is going to be the Infinite Army one. That's
you know how excited I am that I have a gunslinger, and all I got to do is switch to SWTOR and just be like, here, let me vomit AOE everywhere.
It does. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to talk about it. It'd be great. The one thing that related to this, they asked about, because one of the things that's going to happen. Oh no, I'm sorry. This isn't related to that. Sorry. That the Call of Code War Games and Red Reaper, assuming that they're not going to get a hard mode, the drop rate for the Stronghold stuff and just in general is not as much as it would be in hard mode. And so they asked, can these increase the drop rates of flashpoints without a hard? Can you increase the drop rates in flashpoints without a hard mode? And he said that he said to the person asking to ask him to PM later, because he doesn't see why the drop rate shouldn't be higher for that. And just real quick thoughts, good idea. Should the drop rates be increased for, say, Call of Code War Games and Red Reaper, since they don't have a hard mode? Yes? You want to see
I don't
more
see
of that?
why not. It's not like the decorations that drop are like super rare or like really hard to get. I mean, if you really wanted something, you'll just go in and farm. To save people some time from doing that, they could just make the drop rates a little bit easier. Personally, I would never farm a Call of Code Reaper not Call of Code Reaper, Call of Code War Games for some decoration, because I still only have that one decorated hallway.
You still only have one hallway?
Yeah.
You are so slacking. I've got a whole ship decorated. I did. My guild only has a bridge currently, and we have one floor. But I filled up. The bridge is full. It's like to capacity. I can't put anything else in there. I cannot put anything else in our ship. So I have an empty hallway only because I can't put anything else in there. And I've done all sorts of farming. So I am totally on board with them increasing the drop rates for Red Reaper and Call of Code War Games. I forget which ones they carry now, but I remember wanting something and having to farm Red Reaper a lot, and that was really annoying. Anyway, I
was going to say, to add to that, I've got no problem with them increasing the drop rate since it's completely random. I would also further request that any of the flashpoints that do not have a hard mode, or not hard mode, but do not have a bonus boss, increase the drop rates in there as well.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
because the bonus bosses are great. It's a hard mode that you have to do it, but at least that bonus boss guarantees one decoration. Otherwise, if there's no bonus boss in there, I've done full run-throughs and never seen anything drop back to back. So it would be nice if they had some kind of setup algorithm, and they probably wouldn't do it right, but it would be great to see them actually guarantee that it drops once somewhere, just once at least.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the way that hard modes are set up right now. Currently, right? They're set up where it's almost a guarantee you'll get it from
if there's
the
a bonus boss, it's a guaranteed.
Yeah,
and then you've got this, because that's the thing, right? How many times have you done those hard modes with the bonus boss and gotten 2? That's how often it drops in flashpoints that don't have a bonus boss. And I've only gotten 2 a handful of times. So it's a really low percentage if it's not off the bonus boss.
Yeah. I've got it with if I solo something, if I solo one of the flashpoints and it's like the story mode, which I did multiple times, decorating the the guild ship, you get you about 50-50 on a bonus boss if you solo it in that story mode. In hard mode, I got it every time from the bonus boss, and maybe from the final boss. So if they could, I would be in like Red was saying, I'd be really okay with if these like Call of Code War Games and even KDY and the tacticals, if they would make it to where it would almost be guaranteed to drop once during the duration, I'd be cool with that. Onto operations, and they it was asked why so long between operations, which I guess we are sitting at a year almost, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the
Let's
1-year
open
birthday
over
last
here.
week, I think.
Yeah.
Last week was a year, I believe.
Yeah, so
Happy birthday, Dread Operation.
happy birthday, Death of the Dreadmasters. All right. So so looking ahead to the project, they knew this was going to be a problem. This was this is what I guess Musko was saying. However, they only had two options they could realistically go with. The first was to release an operation before the expansion, which but have it quickly become obsolete in 3.0 and only have one operation ready for 3.0, or they could wait and have two for 3.0, but have a really long time without any. They say it was really crappy and high-end PvPers got effed. It's something that they don't want to do again, and having too much time between operations. What do you think they could have done? I mean, is there another option? They said there was two options there. Was there another one? What do you think in general? Did they make the right call? Did they make the wrong call? What would have your call
I think there's a couple issues here. Like we were talking about before with the communication, they could have talked about, hey, this is why there's no operation. I mean, we all knew that there was an expansion coming out at the end of the year, so they could say, hey, you know what, there are these operations that we're working on, but if we release it now, we don't want you guys to quickly over-level it. I mean, I know that's giving away a lot of information, but come on, we could have predicted that they were going to do a 5-level increase, and they told us that they're going to have a new operation by the end of the year, so we knew that. Also, I guess they could have put operations higher on their to-do list. I know they came out with a lot of stuff. In the meantime, they came out with, just some PvP stuff and some GSF stuff. And so those people are still crying too because they're saying, well, hey, you know what, there's an expansion out and there's no content for us in there. But I guess, maybe they just not enough people, not enough resources for everything to be on schedule or to come out fast enough.
Well, one of the things that Musko was talking about, and he talked about this with Snave, that it's not necessarily a money thing or whatever. It's more of devoting time to where do you devote your time of your development team. And the question I guess I would have is, and kind of playing devil's advocate here a little bit, would their team have been better used building maybe another operation on top of these other two for the interim between the Dreadmasters ones and the now Revan ones? Would they have been better served to make another one? What do you think, Red?
I think it was a really, really difficult decision they had to make, and they made it, and it's tough to say. They came out with Conquests, they came out with GSF, and there was a lot of consistent GSF content that was able to be released. Mm-hmm. It's a tough call. I mean, they also knew, I imagine, because I think the PvE community really, really overestimates how many people are clearing out content. I bet they were looking at their numbers, and they don't want to say it out loud, but less than 1% had still even fully cleared the Dread Mode Fortress and Dread Mode Palace. And I mean, it's still, what, a couple dozen guilds? Have even 2 dozen guilds finished the current Nightmare content?
That's a good question. I don't know. Do we have?
So
I know there's.
I mean, I'm not trying to be negative, and I do think at the end of the day, how often should they have a new operation, regardless of whether or not an operation is coming out? Yeah, I mean, they should have. It should be at minimum every 6 months, and that doesn't include Nightmare.
Yeah.
I think also the issue with that is I think the very high-end players, really good ranked players, really good Nightmare players. They're also very, very vocal because I forgot where we discussed this, but they're the ones that are putting out the guides and writing content for everyone. And so for them to be saying, "Oh my God, where's our operations? Where's our rank? Blah 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 blah." It's it seems like it's bigger than it really is.
Well, okay, so remember this. They did say that implementing the discipline system was meant to enable them to have a system where they could do rapid balance changes without having to try and account for all sorts of, or even have to go hunting down after the hybrid builds and whatnot. And that this framework that they've been working on is actually meant to enable them to then devote that time and resource into content, presumably operations. I mean, they've never given us content at the pace that they said, because it's like every single time they give us content, they say, "Oh yeah, and by the way, we're extending our release cycle by a week," and that's happened 8 weeks in a row. So, but presumably, and I've actually been saying this frequently to a lot of my friends, I'm hoping that they don't have a super secret project this year, or for the next 2 years. Between 3.0 and 4.0, I don't want to see a super secret project. I think that what they've got in there now is excellent. Now I'd like to see them give us some regular content for all of these variant types of content that we have. And if they want to have a super secret project that they don't tell us about, let's start addressing a lot of these quality of life, UI, dot tracking, friendly buffs and whatnot. If they started just improving on those things and focusing on content at this stage between 3.0 and 4.0, I'd be happy. And I think a lot of the rest of us would be happy. I don't think there's anything that anybody's crying for now. Yeah, there were a lot of people crying for housing, and everybody wanted some form of space combat that wasn't on rails.
Yeah.
We've been given those things now, and okay, now there's starting to be people crying out for some PvE in GSF. I hope they don't do that. I really want them to focus on the game that we have now, which is a much more complete, wonderful, incredible game than it ever has been.
Yeah.
Now let's start giving the content to the players who have been wanting it.
That's absolutely a valid point. What are your thoughts on that, Heather? Do you think that they should give us something new this year, or like a PvE GSF, or do you think they should concentrate on what we have and make that the best it could be? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't play PvE space. Well, what is it even called? Space missions?
GSF. Yeah. Oh, you mean the PvE?
You said PvE GSF.
Yeah.
No, I don't think
PvE
so. I think
GSF,
they should just they should expand on what we have. I think Redna's right that it's a very full game how it is now, and I think that they can only elaborate and add more to it. I think it's great. They just need more.
All right, and a couple other things that they touched on. I'll just go through these kind of quickly. No new companions in 3.0. Surprising? You good with that? How about Heather? Surprised that they don't have a new companion? I admit.
I don't really care. I use Zalek for everything. I don't care.
I'm actually a little bit surprised. I'm surprised that there isn't going to be one, because I would have swore we would have got either the Bodor with the droid. I forget his name all the time. The Wookiee, and or Lana or Theron. I would have swore we would have got that one. But
oh man, yeah, that would be cool if they came out with one of those two or both.
Yeah.
But I think that would be very lore breaking, for them to suddenly be following you. I mean, I don't know, unless they put it somewhere in the story, that would be interesting.
They have a freaking Ewok as a companion. There's nothing more lore breaking. Anything they do would be not lore breaking. So the other thing is they said that accommodations change and accommodations will not change. We'll keep getting Ultimate, Elite, and Basic.
Does that mean when there's new gear out, I can use my maxed out Ultimate comms and Elite comms for that?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. Does that mean...
That sounds awesome. Like, I don't even have to start saving again.
There's no reason not to. the way that they've got the prices set for those items anyway, when you've got maxed out ultimate comms on a character. Granted, if you've got a whole bunch of characters with maxed out ultimate comms, then you could probably buy one of every slot and legacy transfer.
That's totally what I'm doing.
Which is excellent, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. They've given us a legacy bank. Why shouldn't they embrace our ability to frickin' maximize our time by playing so many characters that we're ready that one character can be geared as soon as you hit max cap? I'm okay with that. You have already dedicated all that time to all those other characters. You're probably going to dedicate all that time to all those other characters to go back through all the content again to get those characters geared too beyond your main.
Yeah, and that that kind of leads to the next thing about they asked about the 12x XP buff. Now we know that the current one is going to end on December 31st. So if you haven't pre-ordered Shadow of Revan and you're interested in leveling up alts or running through all the stories, if you haven't seen all the stories yet, you can get if you pre-order Shadow of Revan, you get a 12x XP buff, which pretty much allows you to go through just the class story and get up to level 55, actually, because McKeb is buffed as well. But what they said was that they are considering adding this particular buff to your legacy unlock. So basically, the suggestion was that they would give per class that you have that you've gotten up to level 55, or per, I don't know if they said per character, per class. It says per class here, that you got up to level 55, you would get 3x XP buff. So ultimately, if you have 4 of them, then you have 12. Cool idea? Wish you had it sooner? I know
Tying it into Legacy? I think it's freaking brilliant.
I know. Okay, so Heather, I know you only really play one character, right? That's pretty much all you play. Would that incentivize you to create other characters at all, or are you just gonna kind of stick to your?
No, I mean I have other characters that are 55, or that I have the like the little buffs and stuff for. So it's not really that. I just choose to play one that I like. I have max level Juggernaut and Bounty Hunter. I have two mercs at 55 actually. Super secret. Oh my god. I have two mercs at level 55. Oh no. I just gave it away. I have two mercs at 55. I also have max level sniper. So I do have all the Imperial classes.
Man, you
so
haven't
it's
even
not really
gotten to experience any of the good stories. Oh, I guess
except that she's experienced all the good stories. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, those are the only stories.
Exactly. What other
Pub for the win. Pub for the win.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I guess that would incentivize me to play pub, but yeah, I mean, I'm working on my shadow. Not 55 yet, even with this 12 times leveling, but yeah, I guess it would incentivize me to do that. But,
so Red, you said it was the coolest thing.
I think it would be brilliant putting it on Legacy, absolutely. And I guess I'd have two requests. One, that maybe 50% of it is tied into. Yeah, 50% I think would be okay. Tied into the fact that if you've got a 55, one on pub, one on imp, doesn't matter which, but as long as you've done one of each, then get 50% of it, because then at least you've been given incentive, and maybe you've done a workaround, but hopefully you've at least gotten enough incentive to go experience the planet storylines once. Yes, they're terrible to do more than once, but they're worth it once. I remember the first time and watching how it kind of interwove with one of the class stories, and it also gave you a better feeling for the overall galactic story. That was cool. I liked those planet stories. And then I had to do it a second time, and it was miserable. So I would say really front load at 50% or more, and then once you've got all 8. And then I think, honestly, all 8 gives you a 10% bonus. Legacy 50 gives you the full 12 times.
Not a bad idea.
Not 10%. Not 10%.
I know what
times.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Before we move on to the next thing, I want to talk about our sponsor here. We are sponsored this week by World of Tanks when you are in between, leveling up characters, and you're kind of, you've leveled up all the characters you wanted to in SWTOR. Head over to gboffer.com/tanks and play World of Tanks. It is a very, very awesome, very, very awesome game. Let me, I'm going to play this here for you. This is how it feels. It feels like basically you're a tank and you blow things up. It's PvP all the time. It is amazing. It's as historically accurate as they can make it in a game. A lot of real world tanks that are in it are also in the game. I know a lot of us at Gamebreaker play World of Tanks. It's actually one of Gary's favorite games. That's why it's a sponsor for Gamebreaker shows. So head over to gboffer.com/tanks and start playing. It's free. Why wouldn't you want to play? All right. So the last thing here that I want to talk about is you know what? I didn't even get this ready. I was slacking a little bit. I apologize. We have
what else is free?
What's that?
Star Wars: The Old Republic is free.
That's true. It's true.
I was gonna put enough time after the sponsor to say, well, why wouldn't I? Because I'm playing SWTOR.
No, you get no. But in all seriousness, I mean, I play multiple games, and
I actually look forward to trying it out. I still haven't. The problem is because as much as people moan and groan about the lack of content in the game, every time I have installed it now on my computer, but every time I'm about to go play it, some kind of announcement or something changes, and it's like, shoot, I got to get into the game and play right now. But I will. I'm gonna check it out. I've heard so many good things about World of Tanks. I imagine it's quite good.
It is. It's a really good game. I'm actually everybody at wargaming.net. They really know what they're doing. They know how to make a good PvP game. If anybody questions what should a PvP game be like, World of Tanks. Seriously, that's the way it should be. There you go. So the last thing on our agenda here is I just said agenda. That was very New Englandy of me. Anyway, is ranked PvP Season 3 awards. They gave us actually, and let me go ahead and pull this guy up. See if I got it. I don't have it centered on there. Of course I don't. There we go. We have Baron Deathmark's Furious Walker Mount. This is tier 1. This is which is 1400. Am I right about that? Is it
tier 1 has usually been the top of the tier, hasn't it?
Oh, has it? Oh, yes. I'm sorry. This is the Rancor level. So this is
other than the 96 exclusive.
Right. This was what was it? What was it last time? It was 18. Was it 18? What was it? I forget.
Last time it was the hat.
No. What was the score? What was the ELO score that you had to get?
Oh, last time it was 1600.
1600.
Or Season 2, 1600. Season 1, it was 1500. And they base that off of whatever the average ELO value is for the top 5% when they make the announcement of what the benchmarks are. I think they're not telling us what the ELO is because it's actually still fluctuating enough. And they're intelligent enough to realize, let's tell them the reward without the benchmark, then find out where the 5% is.
Yeah. What do you think of this reward? It was the hat last time. It was the Rancor before. How's this one?
I mean, seriously, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me, and they're going to flame me, and they're going to tell me I'm a horrible human being. I like it better than the Rancor. It looks awesome to me.
I can't disagree with that. I love the Rancors. I love Rancors in general. I think the PvP Rancor was horrible. I wanted a Rancor because
I'm okay with it because it was so obviously it's so unique.
Yeah.
That people do ask you where you got it. You're gonna be able to at least brag by having it out. Yeah. But this is also clearly unique, but cool, man. I really, really like it.
What do you think, Heather?
For me, I care about speeders or maps, so it's just But I didn't like the helmet either from last season, so I guess maybe I'm just hard to please here. But yeah, I don't.
Okay, if you could, what kind of thing?
What do you want?
What kind of thing do you want? What would make
Well,
you happy?
the other things that they put out later in the post about the new armor set. I mean, if it's an attractive armor set, not some weird helmet. I would really like that, and then people would know, oh my God, she's she's really good at PvP because she has that armor set.
So you want the arm? Okay, the whole. You would on a whole
And
armor
not
set.
and not. I don't want to see it recolored in the cartel market. Just a unique.
Ooh. See, you know what? That's the
unique
thing that.
design. That's what I want. I don't want a mount.
That's what The thing is, and this is what's really difficult, and I can actually understand. Part of BioWare's position on this is creating another armor set is pretty difficult, and then to limit it to only about 5% of people.
I feel like I have to disagree with that. I mean, I played The Sims. There's, modders and designers, just people in the custom content world that just came out with new meshes of stuff all the time.
Maybe that's what they should do. They should throw it to the TOR players and say, hey, design us something.
Not to plug my own interview again, but Dave Dorman said that he was ready and willing to create art for them.
No, absolutely.
The greatest Star Wars artist of all time is ready to contribute to this game because he likes it, he plays it, he loves it. If they need ideas, talk to the man. They've already used some of his stuff in this game. He's offering to create brand new stuff, not for comic books or movies or whatever, just like here.
No,
I actually do have one idea on my mind that would be pretty cool for a PvP one, and they could even straight up steal it. We've got the, I think they would, thematically you'll get it, right, because they don't want to steal it, but think about the greed gear. Mm-hmm. The greed gear has the really cool visual glowing effects on it. Give us a new gear set with something along those lines. Yes, I want it to look cool, but we don't even know what that means. But here's the crux. It's the only gear set that has that kind of glowing visual effect that is changeable by the dice. So you can actually make that glow the way you want it.
That is an interesting idea. I'm kind of on board with that. That's really cool. Give me the grease set or whatever, something similar to that has the glowing effects and make it colorable. I think that's unique enough, and that ties into the whole idea that one of the things that I think PvPers like, and not being a PvPer, I can't really speak for them, but just based off of what I've seen, is they like to be able to show off what they've done, and that is absolutely a way to make it personal, and they can show it off. You say, look, I can change mine to my glowy bits to, I don't know, hot pink. Boom, done. Things like that. That'd be great.
Well, and that's the thing too, right? Because if you really wanted to, there is a diverse crowd, a diverse community. Star Wars has so many fans from every age group, sex, race, whatever. We've got a ton of really awesome, very different people in this game. And how do you design something that looks good? Yeah. When we have so many different people to play this game, you need to make it, when it comes to that gear set, do something that does have a cool factor, but is still adjustable to look good. So that if your favorite color is pink, whether or not you're male or female, you can use it and go for it, Or purple. Like for me, I hate the purple lightsaber. But everybody seems to like it. But if you're rolling a purple lightsaber, I bet there's color combinations for your gear set that are going to probably complement that a little bit better. Let us play with it, but you can still make it unique enough. Yeah. And for the gear sets, you're right. It's not going to be the top 5%. Yeah. The gear set, I think, should be above 50% for PvP. Really. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
1200 is default. Put it to 1250 or 1300 and leave it there, because then if people want it, and let us know early enough so that people have a month and a half to work for it, so that even the PvEers, if they like that set enough, it's available. It's not that hard. You just got to get in and commit the time, and that's going to encourage people to play it too, and that's going to get Q pops, and it's going to be better competition, and blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely. And War Historian, yes, hot pink glowy bits. That's what I said. I'll say it again. Hot pink glowy bits. If you would like to see more of what Heather does on the internet about Star Wars: The Old Republic, you can go to Carillion Run. She is on that podcast. That is is it every week or is it every other week?
Every other week.
Every other week. And you can also go to prettylittlesith.com and of course follow her on Twitter at Heather_PLS. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate having you on. And you could also find Redna. He is on Twitter at R3DN4. You can catch him on UtiniCast. That is every week you're on at UtiniCast. And definitely watch his streams on twitch.tv/R3DN4. And if you'd like to see more of me, I am on Twitter at Shadow, SHADDOE. You can catch my weekly or bi-weekly article on Massively, the Hyperspace Beacon. You can also catch all my Star Wars stuff. I talk about Star Wars Rebels and talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic on hyperspacebeacon.com. Of course, I'm also here on Gamebreaker TV every day. Actually, you can read my writing every single day if you want, and we are. You can follow Gamebreaker TV on Twitter at Gamebreaker TV, and you can catch The Republic every week on Thursdays. We've moved it now to 6:30, so we don't interfere with Twemo anymore. And thanks a lot for you guys showing up. I really appreciate. What, you had one more thing?
Can I interject one last thing real quick?
Go
because
ahead.
It did come up. They did specify the change to cleanse is only for PvP, so you cannot remove dots in PvP with your cleanse anymore. But it is still usable in PvE, which makes a lot of PvEers breathe a huge sigh of relief and makes me contemplate what that means for PvP.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Larry Everett. Catch me on Twitter at Shadow, SHADDOE, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Later, Beta.
Am I supposed to say bye? Bye, guys.